You know, we always hear the official story from the big banks, but have you ever wondered what the people managing literally trillions of dollars really talk about behind closed doors? Well, we're about to go inside a pretty high-stakes private Q&A with a financial giant to unpack their real game plan for the future of money. Okay, let's get into it.
So, what's the big question here? It really all comes down to this. In a world that's changing faster than ever, what are the biggest threats and the biggest opportunities that they see on the horizon? Their answers? Well, they reveal a strategy that's both super defensive and incredibly aggressive at the same time.
So we got our hands on this Q&A, and we've basically combed through all their candid responses to pull out the key insights for you. And what we found are some really clear battle lines being drawn for the future of finance.
First up is the big one, the tech dilemma. For these huge banks, technology is a real double-edged sword. It represents both like an existential threat to their whole business, and at the very same time, their single greatest opportunity for growth.
All right, let's start with the scary part, the threat. And the number is just staggering. $6.6 trillion. According to a Treasury estimate they were discussing, that's how much of U.S. bank deposits are potentially at risk. The big worry is that unregulated digital currencies could use a loophole to act like banks, but without any of the safety nets. And the main culprit they're worried about? Something called stablecoins.
So you might be asking, what exactly is a stablecoin? Well, the easiest way to think about it is like a digital dollar. It's a type of crypto that's designed to hold a steady value, not like the wild price swings you see with Bitcoin. And because it's stable, it becomes a direct competitor to a good old-fashioned bank deposit.
And this, right here, gets the heart of their concern. On one side, you've got the regulated banking system we all know, with protections built up over centuries. But on the other, you have the risk of what they called a parallel banking system, something that looks and feels like a bank, but doesn't have the same rules or insurance. The point they made wasn't about banning competition, but making sure everyone plays by the same rule book. But hey, it's not all doom and gloom. Technology is also their biggest opportunity. When someone asked them about buying the Apple Card business, this was their justification. See, it's not just about buying a bunch of loans. It's about a strategic partnership with Apple, a total giant in user experience, to help them innovate faster themselves.
And that partnership really brings us to the next big puzzle they're trying to solve. Let's call it the customer money puzzle. Because even when you're winning over tons of new customers, there's a much deeper question. Are you actually winning their money? And this is a huge challenge for their main business.
I mean, by every metric, their franchise is growing like crazy. They opened 1.7 million net new checking accounts in just a year. That is a huge number. It looks like customers are just flocking to their brand. But there's a twist.
And here's the paradox. You can see it right here. While the number of new customers is shooting straight up, the total amount of money in their consumer deposit accounts is growing way slower. It's almost flat. So what gives? Where's all the money going?
Well, the answer has this fancy name, yield-seeking flows. But what it really means is pretty simple. With interest rates being higher, people are getting smarter with their cash. They're moving it out of basic checking accounts and into things that earn a better return, like investment funds or high-yield savings. And even though this trend is slowing down a bit, it's still strong enough to pretty much cancel out all the gains from those millions of new customers.
Okay, so you've got this puzzle. How do you solve it and prep for the future at the same time? Well, their answer is simple. You bet big. They are pouring billions and billions of dollars into a super aggressive growth strategy.
And when I say big, I am not kidding. They are planning a $9 billion increase in expenses year over year. This isn't just routine spending to keep the lights on. This is a massive strategic investment in the future of the entire company.
So where's all this cash headed? It's going everywhere. We're talking major tech upgrades, developing AI, opening brand new physical branches, actual buildings, hiring the best talent, and of course, funding that massive 2-year project to bring the Apple Card into the fold. And what this strategy really shows is a deliberate choice they're making. They are picking long-term investment over short-term efficiency. You know, a lot of competitors might focus on cutting costs to make their quarterly numbers look good, but they see that as a total trap. The focus here is on building a franchise that's going to dominate for the next decade and probably beyond.
Yeah, the CEO really didn't mince words. He basically said, look, we refuse to cut corners just to hit some expense target today, only to have you all ask us in 10 years how we let our competitors just race past us. The spending isn't about keeping up. It's a calculated, offensive move to secure their spot at the top.
All right, so they've got this big, bold internal plan. But of course, the real world is messy and unpredictable. So the final piece of the puzzle is how they're getting ready to brace for some major threats from the outside world.
One thing that's on their radar right now is all this talk in Washington about putting price controls on credit card interest rates. The bank's leadership predicts a really severe and probably unintended consequence. If you cap the price in a market this competitive, credit doesn't just get cheaper. They predict it'll just disappear for the very people who need it the most.
And when they look at the whole economy, it's kind of like a tale of two different forecasts. The short-term view, they said it's pretty positive. Consumers are still strong, there's still stimulus money out there. But the long-term view, that's where the storm clouds gather. They see an enormous amount of risk from geopolitics and these massive government deficits that, in their words, will bite eventually.
So, after all this, what's the ultimate takeaway from this peek behind the curtain? Their strategy is to navigate all this deep uncertainty, not by pulling back and hiding, but by pushing forward. They're investing aggressively in their own capabilities, while at the same time forming these really powerful alliances, just like the one with Apple.
Which really leaves us with the final multi-billion-dollar question, doesn't it? Is all of this a brilliant, forward-thinking strategy that's going to cement their dominance for a generation, or is it a massive gamble in a world that's more unpredictable than ever? I guess only time will tell.